Welcome, bring Europe back to the streets. And how are we going to do that? Through shakers and movers in Europe. And today we have a very special guest, Wahiba Yachou. She's a social media specialist, entrepreneur, and trend watcher. And she's very effective in creating the right narratives and messages to make sure that people understand the difficult topics nowadays. She works a lot with youth, and she makes sure that the youth stays engaged with the important debates that we're trying to have in society. So today we are going to have a conversation with a great expert, a great trend watcher, and shaker and mover, who is going to tell us everything about social media, what to do, what not to do, about the topic of self-love, how do you know about yourself, and politics, what can we do better. I've learned about your profile and work already a while ago. You are a social media specialist, you are an entrepreneur, you are a trend watcher, definitely a shaker and mover. And it's so interesting and inspiring to see how you can make difficult topics that we speak about in society more easily accessible. You work with youth, you find it very important to inform youth. And you are working on different topics like diversity, mobility, but also politics. So you are truly an expert on how to create narratives, on how to create messages, so that people can learn from what exactly is going on in society. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. That's a very big and beautiful introduction.
Yes,
Thank you.
Well deserved. I mean, how are you now? What keeps you busy?
Honestly, the latest days is my grandma that is keeping me busy.
Why?
I started 4 years ago. I started like a show with her. It's called Takhsara with Hanna, means having nice moments with your grandma. And it started from Instagram, but then I did a real show, like interview, where to actually ask her to tell her story. To give her, actually also, we have different opinions about racism, different opinions about love. And I found it very important to me to actually know from where I'm coming. It was like some pieces of my identity were a little bit lost, and I decided to have that conversation to also learn about my Moroccan side, but also from my family. My grandma is, for me, it's like she's an icon in the family, and I was afraid to lose something if I lose her in the next few months, because she's 82 and sick. That's life. And the idea was actually to know her better, because we are in our culture, our parents don't speak a lot when they are sad, mad, and the idea was actually to learn more. And actually, when I dropped it online, a lot of people they needed actually that kind of content, one, and two, also there is a lack of conversation with our elders. And also when they moved here, they moved in Belgium for my side, and sometimes those conversations are not happening in families. We are in a very individualistic world today. So people are not talking to each other that much. So it brought actually more than I expected. Honestly, I'm not a sociologist in the beginning, but everyone brought like a lot of analysis about this conversation with her.
Absolutely, that's beautiful, because indeed you are also working on the intergenerational conversations and dialogues that I believe we need so much. I think we are millennials, can learn a lot, but also the Gen Z from the older generation. I mean, they have paved the way often, and especially when we speak about strong women, like your grandmother.
Exactly.
We can learn a lot from that. What is the most important lesson that you've learned from your grandmother?
Be proud, actually. That's the best lesson that I learned from those conversations, is actually for being proud to have my double identity, for growing up here. It's not a shame. She said that I have to feel like rich to have so much identities and living here. So that's what I have really learned.
Is it often perceived as a shame, you think? People with a migrant background, young people with a migrant background, do you think we have been dealing a lot with stigmatization?
Of course.
I mean, you mentioned shame. Is that an emotion that you had?
I had that emotion, not for the last 4 years, so it's pretty new to me to actually accept all my sides. But yeah, for a long time it was in
And
different...
why?
Because it depends when it's your job, when you are in your friends circle, but you have different people from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
You try actually just to be not different. Because when you feel different, you feel actually an outsider, and feeling that way when you are a teenager and then when you are in your 20s, it's not helping you. You don't feel well because you feel people are always telling you that you are different in your job. You want to be actually as anyone.
Yes, accepted.
Actually accepted, but people are looking at you and they are showing you that you are different. So yes, I try to hide some sides of me when I was in my 20s, but now I'm definitely myself, 100% myself, and I feel so much better since then.
Yeah, because let's move to the topic of diversity. I think this in general is about the topic of diversity and inclusion, and I think many people with a migrant background can understand what you're saying, dealing with stigmatization, especially the first generation, the second generation. They have a lot of need to prove themselves also towards the family, because often we are the first one to go to university or to study or to have a job, or we often are the first one to do something new in the family. So we break through certain cycles, and I think that creates a lot of burden also for these generations. And then when we enter society, school, education, the workforce, we need to deal with so many other challenges. So how do you experience that? And do you think society is sensitive enough already for these intersectional challenges that people face?
I think there are some things that have been made by governments and things like that to help out, because to be honest, if it's coming from companies or coming from people themselves, no, it was not happening. Even a lot of people with an immigrant background were questioning themselves if they are born on the right side. So even themselves, before even talk about their identity, they were asking themselves if they are allowed to talk. So it was not actually that simple. But today we are on our way. Not every country of Europe is following it, but we are on our way. And I'm a social media strategist, so I have to be honest that now you can actually feel in a team through social media. It was not happening before. That's why I like social media also, because if you are looking for some answers and people may be dealing with some things that you are facing with other people online, you can actually have that conversation. Before, it was not actually happening. No. In my 20s, it was social media. People were actually not talking about those topics. It was like, find your friends, post your vacation, your holidays, and show us what you are eating. But nobody was using really social media to actually speak out about some of those topics.
And you really know how to use it. I think we called it social media savvy, I think. Being very effective and cool on social media. And obviously you have a very creative mind that really helps you to do that effective. I mean, when we speak about these kind of topics like diversity, exclusion in society, emancipation, like how do you see that social media is helping communities to bring out that message, or to even help them to participate in society? Do you see it as a favor, or do you also see the downside of it?
I think it's a therapy. Honestly, when I use, for example, social media, it's a way of, instead of holding it back, I need to talk. I'm a very extrovert person, and sometimes I don't have the space to talk about those conversations, so I decided to do it online. It's like a therapy. I need to speak out. Some people are like telling me they are agreeing, and then you come in my DMs. Sometimes we create groups. Sometimes our events are organized about that. I'm going. So for me, I think people, when you are using it, it's sometimes they are not heard in the environment where they are living. One thing, maybe also friends. Some friends are telling you, yeah, don't talk about it. You're actually coming always with the same topics, and it doesn't help. We are not in. We are a minority, and
what are they?
leave it. I mean, leave it and just live your life and do your job and go back home. And
What are they afraid of?
I think they are afraid to embrace their difference. I honestly, people who actually don't want to talk about it, it's because they are sometimes afraid of. Because being different and people are saying different, it's hard every day unless you worked on your self-love and you worked on your personality and you love yourself. When you go out, nobody can touch you at that time.
No.
But sometimes when you have actually doubts, then I can understand this kind of people. That's why I say you have to be actually very strong to face it sometimes. Sometimes it's really very microaggressions that you can actually face every day.
Absolutely.
Even in the bus, even in when you are on your way to your job or at school. Sometimes a teacher is going to tell you something.
Yeah.
Some people are even not noticing, but some people are. And that's why when people are actually explaining their story online, it can maybe help someone on the other side.
What's your advice for people who experience that? I mean, we all know what is meant with these microaggressions, subtle discrimination. So you cannot really make it explicit, but you just know something is off. I mean, you need to be very grounded and strong to often manage and deal with these situations, because people can be really sad about it, frustrated. And I think we see these challenges with a lot of young people in our society. It's not always that easy to inform yourself with instruments and knowledge to protect yourself. So what is your advice?
Honestly, to be honest, I see a big move from the Generation Z.
What do they do?
They speak out. When something is not okay, they leave. I remember when I was in my 20s and even teenager, I had my job. I had to keep my job, even if something wrong was going on. They leave. They leave the class. They leave the job. They worked on their self-love. They worked on their identity more than us. So honestly, I respect that, because that kind of guts, we didn't have them before. So also, I think because people are showing the fact that they quit when something is wrong, it helped a lot online. So I will suggest you actually to speak out, even if it's in your family. If you don't want to use social media, I mean, some people are afraid that there is a backlash after. Write something down, record yourself, talk with your family, talk with your friends, but speak out. Don't hold it for yourself.
Yeah.
It's sometimes people can jump in the conversation and help you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I realized being a politician does not make it easy to speak out about your personal experiences and topics like diversity. And it's funny though, because some days before, I had an interview for a Dutch program, and it was one of my most open interviews about my own experiences as a politician of color and a woman of color in politics. And before that, it was very rare to hear from me about these topics, and especially personal experiences, because I was always indeed like, oh no, that's going to cause a lot of backlash. I find it a bit scary. I think I only did it once. It was last year in the Elle magazine, and now I did it the days before. And after that radio interview, I was like, oh God, here we go. I'm gonna get backlash from this. I'm gonna
But how did you feel?
get some responses. Well, I felt so relieved, to be honest. I felt relieved, and I think it was a good interview because you protect your authenticity and you respond to it honestly. But I also thought mainly it's important to spread and send that message on the issue of diversity and the importance of role models and the importance of representation in politics. Because if I don't speak out, then who else is going to do that? So I think what you say about constantly being afraid that you get backlash from speaking out honestly is something that is very typical generation millennial and older than that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a mood that or a mindset that we need to change. Like speaking out is not bad. I mean, if it's your honest own
No, and
story.
and also there are rules today when we talk about diversity, and if there is a backlash and things like that, people they don't know the. You can actually, you can actually call out if something is happening to you. Before it was not actually, even attorneys couldn't actually help you and things like that. But today we can condemn a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, and what you experience is a lot of support, actually. I mean, it's absolutely not negative.
Not feeling alone in the same topics can help. That's why I say when you share on socials, people will actually answer you.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking about social media, it also has a downside, as you know. I've been working with the No Hate Speech Network, for example, but we've been also working on the topic of AI and technology. And social media is definitely not making it safer for some of the communities that we speak about, migrant people, women. So also a lot of racism and xenophobia, for example, comes with social media. And nowadays a lot of people complain about it. They don't feel safe in the online environment. So do you think that's a downside of social media? Do you think there's any way we can prevent that?
I know for myself, I have been harassed online because I'm actually at online or offline, or you're a politician. At the moment you are in public, you will have positive and negative responses. That's one thing. Secondly, there are some rules, even for example in Europe, towards social media that are not happening in other countries, that are where when you are harassed or you see things like racism, xenophobia, or homophobia, any other of those kind of posts, they normally get erased in a very quick time. Comments, it takes time. I know that, and they need actually social media needs actually to work on that, because in comments it's actually sometimes hard. I know some people that with who I work, they never read the comments because they are scared. But actually you have some trainings when you want to work on harassment. I did it myself. So yeah, for me there is a downside in a lot of things, not only on social media. AI, for example, is biased. When you see where is actually the information coming towards women, towards diversity, it's mostly used by sometimes white men. There is a girl who is actually working on that, because for her, and actually because of some numbers, AI is today biased, and it's more identified by white men than any white women, and also a woman of color. So AI needs to actually to be still trained.
Yes.
But I know there is a lot of commissions working on that.
Yes.
So that's already something that is happening. But for me, you have to protect yourself
How?
personally. That's why I come always with that self-love, because it's very important to know yourself.
Yeah, you need to know
Because
who you are.
you need to know who you are, because if people online are creating doubt in you, it's going to be a mess.
Absolutely.
If people are creating doubt in you, it's going to be a real mess. So that's the first thing. And then also accept that when you speak out, people are agreeing and disagreeing. That's part of the part of the thing. You will never have a peaceful world, to be honest.
No.
People have opinions. So if you don't want to have the conversation, take off the comments, but people will say you're not open to actually have the conversation. But for example, for me, people who are actually just harassing me or cursing me, I don't answer. That's people who are not open to conversation. People who are putting their opinion and they are disagreeing some things, I take time. I talk with them. Because maybe their input is interesting.
Yes, absolutely.
But the others I just actually delete. And I say it's not a democracy, my online platforms.
Yeah.
I decide. I'm not a media, I'm myself. So if I feel harassed, I just delete.
Yeah.
Honestly. And I say it all the time. Oh, hello people, the new people and new followers that came in. This is not actually a democracy here. I protect myself in my way, with my way. And if you are not actually respectful in the conversation, you're out.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that these are very important rules indeed to apply to protect yourself indeed. And you say to work on self-love, self-care, I think also is part of that. Speaking about social media and the way we regulate AI, we recently had the famous European AI Act adopted, meaning that in Europe we will regulate algorithms, that we will monitor it, also to protect people in the online environment. And this is a typical example of what Europe and the EU institutions can do for people. But do you think we succeed in making sure that people know about the work we do here? Like, for example, the new AI Act, that people know that the EU institutions have been working on protecting people online.
Honestly, I didn't know. So that means that actually the information is not coming. I'm working in the media. I don't see much European news coming.
How come, do you think? I mean, you are a trend watcher, so you know very well what works and what not works, and you are an expert in social media. So what exactly do we do wrong here in Europe?
Actually, I would say even using just socials. I know even the youth, when we talk about like very big institutions, mostly, you know what we think? They cannot actually have the language to talk to people. One, they do very, very institutional posts with always that blue design.
Okay, we need to get rid of that blue design.
The blue design, honestly, it's not sexy. Being on social media, if I talk to as an expert, sometimes people are having their tone of voice is so official. It's so actually you create really so much distance between people and you. Even in the information, it's not actually. For example, I worked for 7 years in a youth media. We decided to talk about the news, but the people that we decided in front of the camera and also the way they talk to the youth, you don't even feel that they are journalists. For us, it was the idea to have your friend explain you in a very easy way what is happening in the world. So when I see institutions online, so official, so blue, so yellow, so like a PowerPoint but online, on social media, and that's why you will never reach anyone. Also, I don't feel like Europe is. I don't feel Europe in our daily life. I know we are part of the continent, but I don't feel Europe in our daily life to see, okay, this is happening, they choose this. You will see like for example, you had the elections, we heard about it because there are a lot of big budgets that are pushed to actually inform people about what is happening.
Yes.
But if that kind of energy could be put it in
It should
other
be
topics,
sustainable.
yeah, it should be sustainable, but
Yeah.
also to reach every time. I never saw, unless some friends, I never saw any European workers in my daily life.
Yeah. So that really needs to change. I mean, that's exactly why we decided here in the team to start the Europe to the Street initiative, because we noticed every single time when we did a working visit or when we visited the youth or when we meet with local communities, I mean, they all ask us, what exactly do you do in the European Parliament? And a lot of people don't know it.
But sometimes also, what are the laws that are being voted? How do they affect our daily
Yes.
life? People don't understand what is actually affecting, what is actually affecting our daily life? What is
Yeah.
happening? What is has been decided that will change tomorrow my life?
Exactly. And
We
that,
don't
that
know.
really needs to change.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
We only know when there is a war. We only know when there is huge things that everyone in the world is talking about, and then
Yeah.
we ask for Europe.
Yeah.
What is Europe doing for the daily life of any people?
Yeah. So what would be your last shout out?
Bring Europe in the streets. No, that's a very good actually gimmick and quote. Let's come to the streets. Let's meet people. Let's hear also what they think. Because politicians, yeah, it's true. They are the voices of people, but sometimes people don't know even who they are.
No.
So that would be actually nice to do sometimes.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Wahiba, for this very nice conversation. And I really love what you say about self-love. I think that is one of the main conclusions here. If you know who you are, you can be a better leader, I think also, and you can inspire people. And leaders are definitely not perfect, but no one is. So it all starts with self-love.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for listening and watching. This was a new edition on Shakers and Movers in Europe.